and welcome to my channel. I am Mussetta Lee Storm, and this month's videos we are going to be celebrating both my husband and myself, as it is both of our birthdays this month. I'm on the 14th and he's on the 20th. So to start off our celebration, we're actually going to be making this blueberry coffee cake. So keep watching to find out how that's done. For this blueberry coffee cake recipe, it is both dairy-free and egg-free. I am using applesauce as an egg substitute, and for the dairy substitutes, I am using oat milk and Miyoko's butter. Okay, for this recipe, I will be dividing it up into 3 parts: the fruit compote, the cake, and the topping. The fruit compote is what we will be doing first, which will be blueberry this time. And we're doing it first because it does need to cool down before we can use it in the rest of the recipe. For this recipe, you will need 4 cups blueberries and 1 cup water. We're just going to simmer the blueberries in the water on the stove, covered for about 5 minutes, and then we'll be adding other things like lemon juice, sugar, and cornstarch. So now that this is starting to have a gentle simmer go on, we're going to keep it covered for about 5 minutes or until the fruit is tender. Mine's a little tender because it's been frozen for about a year. These are blueberries from my actual garden. So we're going to let these go for about 5 minutes before we add the rest of the ingredients. Okay, now that the blueberries have become nice and tender and have been simmering for about 5 minutes here, we are going to stir in 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. Next, we're going to mix together 1 1/4 cup sugar with 1/3 cup cornstarch. And here is our cornstarch and sugar mixture. I prefer to use a whisk when I do this because it makes sure it gets out any lumps from the cornstarch. Now we're going to mix this in to our blueberry mixture. Now I'm pouring this in slowly and in bits so that way the cornstarch doesn't clump up on me. Okay, and you're just going to want to stir this in until it's nice and thick, and it may be bubbling, it may not. If it's thick, it's good. I know a lot of fruit skins tend to have pectin in them, which helps with gelatizing fruits and compotes. So depending on the fruit that you're using, if you're not using blueberries, it could possibly become thicker quite faster if you left the skin on. Alright, so this is finished, and we're going to go ahead and spread this out onto a tray, and I will show you when I do that, so that way it can cool down even faster. So this is the tray I'm going to be using. As you can see, it's an old Thanksgiving or Christmas holiday tray. It clearly doesn't get used for that anymore. It's usually like a vegetable tray, if anything. So I am going to use it as a lovely little cooling tray for this berry compote, so that way it'll be nice and cooled off for us when we need it for the rest of the coffee cake. Alright, so now that we have the compote cooling, we will now move on to the cake portion of the coffee cake. Alright, now that we have the blueberry compote cooling down, we're going to go ahead and get started on step 2, which is the cake portion. Okay, so for this next portion, we're going to start off by mixing together 3 cups of flour with 1 cup sugar, 1 tablespoon baking powder, 1 teaspoon salt, 1 teaspoon ground cinnamon, and 1/4 teaspoon ground mace. Now that we've got that mixed together, next we're going to cut in 1 cup butter. I am going to use a pastry blender tool for cutting in the butter. You can use a fork, a knife, or any other device that you may have for doing something of that nature. I apologize for my cat. He's new and sometimes he cries a little bit, so he may be in there a little bit more in the background. So we're going to cut in this butter until the mixture resembles fine crumbs. Okay, so there we have the nice crumbly mixture here. Next, we're going to start on the liquid mixture. Okay, for the liquid portion of the cake, we are going to make it first in a separate bowl, and we are going to start out with half a cup of applesauce, 1 cup oat milk or milk substitute of your choice, and 1 teaspoon vanilla extract. Let's mix that all together. And now we're going to add the milk, applesauce, vanilla mixture to the flour and butter mixture that we already made. Now, this may get a little tough to do. It was a little hard for me to do, but this is the exact amount of liquid you should have in here for this cake. I promise. I'm just going to mix all this together until everything is all mixed in. There shouldn't be any wet part or any dry parts. Everything should be nice and wet. All right, there we go, all mixed together. So now I'm going to get the pan real quick and then give you those details on the oven temperature and what size pans you need to use. Okay, so you're going to want to have your oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit and grease your pans. Now you're going to either want a 13 by 9 by 2 inch pan, or you're going to want 2 8 by 8 by 2 inch pans. Either way, it's up to you. This is a 13 by 9 by 2 inch pan, so it's roughly a lasagna sized pan. So if you want smaller coffee cakes, 2 8 by 8 by 2 inch pans. Now what we're going to want to do here is pour half of the cake batter into this, and then we're going to put the compote on top, and then we're going to drop the rest of the batter on top, and then we're going to make an additional topping. This batter does not spread out on its own. You will need to push it out throughout the pan. Okay, so now that the compote is all spread out on the lower portion of the cake, we are going to take large spoonfuls of the remaining half of the cake that we set aside and just sort of glop it on there in big clumps and just spread it out a little bit. We don't want to accidentally do what I just did and get blueberry everywhere. It wasn't too bad, but it shouldn't be on the top there. But spread it out just slightly like that. We're just going to drop big old clumps. For the topping, what you will need is half a cup of sugar, half a cup all-purpose flour. Go ahead and mix those together, the sugar and the flour. A 1/4 cup of butter, and this is where we're going to be cutting the butter again. In into the flour and sugar mixture. And you're going to want to cut this butter in until it resembles coarse crumbs. And last, we're going to mix in a half a cup of walnuts, chopped up. Once this is all mixed up here, we're going to sprinkle it over the top of the cake and compote cake. Alright, now that we have this topping on, we're going to get this into our preheated oven, and in a 13 by 9 by 2 inch pan, we are going to bake this for 45 to 15 minutes, 50. Or if you're using the 8 by 8 by 2 inch pans, you're going to cook it for 40 to 45 minutes. And you're going to want to get like a little bit of golden brown on here, but not too much, and it's going to be hard to test with like a toothpick or anything. So you're really just going to have to trust that you got the right amount of time. If you're not sure, do it for the full amount of time, the 40 to 45 minutes, or the 45 to 50 minutes. Do the 50 minutes or the 45-minute mark, depending on your pan size, if you just want to make sure that it's done. But this will turn out really nice, and I will show it to you here in about 45 to 50 minutes. And here we have our fresh, warm blueberry coffee cake. Now, it won't fall apart once it cools down and if you chill it in the refrigerator, but because it is still warm, it's kind of just falling apart on me. Once it cools down, if you follow me on Instagram, I will have a picture of a cooled down version so you can see the layers that you made. But this is what it looks like once you get it nice and hot out of the oven. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check the description box down below for links to my social media and the recipes. Have a lovely day. Bye!